Alright, young and old alike, we're entering into a strange land. Strange land that, oddly enough, has no seeming lore explanations, but you know what? That's okay. We're talking about the modern craze, Zootopia. What is it? What does it mean? And why has it stuck with us so? Join us as we plumb these depths and others on Behind the Curve. Alright.
So, I think it's definitely more than to sell stuff to children, which is was really relaxing. I remember watching the trailer and being like, "Oh, is this gonna be like Cars? You know, just sell stuffies and stuff."
No. Cars was such a weird... I don't know. Cars was weird. I liked it the first time I saw it, but it was like I started asking so many questions by the second time I saw it. By the time there was a sequel, I'm just like, no.
It was the fact that Cars 2, the biggest selling point was like, "Oh, it has realistic water effects." Was like, yeah.
So, real cars have better graphics, and they don't talk to you or stick out their tongues. Never once.
Yeah, it's like, is the tongue made out of metal? Is it? Yeah, now come to think of it, Cars actually has more world building problems than Zootopia.
And less snappy music.
No, I didn't care for her to try everything. It's
Yeah,
nice.
no, I should come and think of it. Cars did have some good... I kind of like... Cars had some good folk music.
It had country in the first one, which I appreciate. I remember watching when it first came out in South Carolina, actually, on vacation.
Yeah, I'm not usually a huge country music person, but I liked the music in Cars. It fit well with the setting.
It's a funny thing to segue into, well, sort of segue into another point, is that, like, maybe, like, it's... I can barely tell anymore the way that Disney runs itself, but, like, Zootopia is actually not a Pixar film. I don't really care. It almost felt like it was.
I think because of the quality level of it, I think was the quality of it was very high. The production quality was impeccable.
I must say, before Big Hero 6, well, it almost broke record for most, like, background characters in, like, an animated film or something.
I don't know. Out of curiosity, what do you know what the record holder is?
Big Hero 6, I believe.
Okay.
Might be the record holder.
Okay. I have to say, I like Zootopia. Actually, I liked it a lot more than I like Big Hero 6.
Me too.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that's a movie I liked, but I feel is a bit overrated.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Marvel gets a lot of attention. It still does.
People get a little bit up in arms if you tell them that you think Big Hero 6 is overrated. And that's not to say it's not good. It's a good movie. I would even say it's a very good movie, but I do think it is a bit overrated.
You know, it's kind of funny though, but like the fact that you think Zootopia is a great film, and that like is kind of similar to the same thing. Like, I mean, to Big Hero 6, like it's a very big film. Like another fact that I read about was there's a giraffe character that had more individual hairs animated than every character in Frozen combined. So it's like a very big film.
Yeah, no, it was a push. The musical number is a little cheesy. And you know what? The least that we say about shiny underpants tigers, the better.
I don't remember that part, but I'm gonna... Sounds like a bad cereal commercial from A Nightmare.
Ooh, Tony the Tiger. There's a reason they deleted his Twitter account, kids.
That was probably a win for the Me Too movement.
Tony the
Yeah, that's what the sequel is going to be about.
does that make Tony the Tiger being part of the Me Too movement? I don't know. Tony the Tiger has a case there. Tony the Tiger's got a case. Let me tell you that much.
But anyway, yeah. So it's an open world film, so to speak, like Skyrim. But do you think that was even necessary? You know, like I feel like it wasn't, but it's like it's kind of, I don't know.
Do you think it was necessary to make the movie so big?
Yeah.
Ooh. To get the feeling that they were going for, yes, but I don't think it was necessary to the plot. I think it was necessary for the world they wanted to show.
Is it distracting? I felt it might have been a bit distracting. I knew where the action was because that's the thing with Disney Pixar. They really nail where to like show you with the camera.
Now that you mention it, there were one or two moments where it seemed like they were shifting from set piece to set piece. And the set pieces were glorious. Like, I'm glad we got to see them. But there were some...
made sense. Like, with Judy chasing Duke Weaselton, that made sense.
Yeah. Like, yeah, no. It was interesting. Every once in a while, it'd be like, they'd pop... It wasn't the chasing so much, it's like the popping out in random places scenes. It'd be like, oh, like, how... What? How'd you... Like, where'd you...
I know what you mean. I kind of
I think they went for the sense of scale over the sense of place.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's okay in that kind of film. I would have appreciated a little more sense of place, but
I think also because I think you remember talking about this, but it's kind of is exploitable to expand upon itself, which Disney is great at. With Marvel and not so much Star Wars for some reason is maybe expanding a TV show I see a lot of great for a better word adult conflicts in that with the Rodent Town.
Yeah.
One thought I could have is protection against other bigger species, but case there's an accident or something by a big road and having council meetings and do we block silently and make it an ugly little fence or what I'm saying? It's all these storylines here.
So what you're saying is a young adult police procedural.
Grand Theft Zootopia.
Ooh, I really like that idea. The chances of that getting made, never. But would I be?
Maybe it was an anime if it was Japanese, because they're not afraid to be adult over there.
I would if they ever made that, I would totally watch that. I'd totally watch it. But then again, I think we've seen that
ZPD. Zootopia.
If they do that and do that well, that could be it would have to be something that's it's at least rated PG. At least rated PG. It would be it'd be because I feel like this movie didn't have just a tiny appeal, because I feel like this is a movie that was it hit with every age group.
It really is a family film.
Yeah. So I think you could take advantage of that and be like, oh, you remember this movie from when you were little? Here's a show now that you're a little bit older dealing with conflicts you'll have to deal with in the real world versus a bunch of slapstick nonsense problems. I don't know. I like that idea. I'd watch it. I'd support it.
Yeah, I mean, where's it gonna go with that? Really good point you're talking about. Yeah, I really felt like it was set up for other adventures and I'd actually be really disappointed. I don't know how it couldn't have a sequel, which is the way that Disney is. Even if it's Mary Poppins, where it's you get a sequel literally 54 years later or something.
Yeah, even if it's an underwhelming sequel, I think it deserves one. I still stand by my idea that it should get an open world game.
So you want Grand Theft Zootopia?
Grand Theft Zootopia, scale it down so it's so it's E10, so it's make it scroll it down to teen, T for teen.
Yeah.
Scroll it down for teen.
Batman Arkham Asylum, you just have a little bit of hints for things.
And make it so you can play as a good guy.
You are the cop, as I call it.
Yeah. And I think that could be a lot of fun. I'd buy it.
Yeah.
I would definitely buy that.
It's another thing.
It's such a vibrant, happy place, but it also has a dark side, and I think we see that it has a dark side very, very, very well, and it does a good job making the dark side seem not cartoonish or overly scary. It's just present.
Yeah, good balance there.
Yeah.
And they could have done it with the Predators, but that's kind of the point of the film, and I'm getting ahead of myself. But there's another question I have.
Yes.
Before jumping into the theme of the story, do you think, especially as a writer of fantasy featuring furry animals, do you think that having a created world and dealing with animals instead of humans dealt with this better than just humans? It's not like an Incredibles without the superheroes, you think it works?
That is why I like the aspect of fantasy that allows for extreme anthropomorphization, because I think it forces people to think outside of humanity. It forces you to see the humanity in something else. It changes the perspective. And you can see, like, it breaks down preconceived notions that we have about other people, or people that aren't similar to the main characters, people that aren't similar to the reader, or people who are similar to the reader. It forces you to look at them in a new way, even if that shift is merely flavor. You know, it's merely flavor. They're human characters. You know. Yeah, no, I think it can be very useful, especially when dealing with topics like Zootopia deals with. I think that...
We actually call this the Zootopia effect in other episodes.
Yes, I think it's very, very helpful to writing. Storytelling. Rather.
Amen.
Right.
Has it actually influenced Blood Covenant in any known way, or not so much?
No, I wouldn't say it doesn't necessarily deal with the same conflicts. It has...
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
yeah.
you talk about general concept things like mime film and primer or something.
Yeah, no, it has some, yeah. I'll go with that.
Okay. That is fair.
Mm-hmm. So when you, well, I know you said you were jumping ahead of yourself, but since we just talked about it, so what about the main sort of conflict of Zootopia, the underlying, well, really, no, it's not even the main, it's the underlying conflict that becomes the main conflict.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, you know, as a movie that deals with what essentially amounts to racial relations, how do you think it handled it?
Well, let me start with this. Zootopia came out in 2016, I think summer 2016, and that was during the kind of the stuff coming up to election season in 2016, 2017, which is a lot like what's happening now. And just wait if you think it's not the time. And people think that it was written as sort of a reaction against Donald Trump. I don't think so, because the script was finalized before he was a major presidential candidate. So the fact, I'm actually glad it wasn't written as a response to him, because it's all the more timeless in my opinion.
Yeah, that would forever link it with a person, which is going to date something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you could say it's of its era. Like, it's a very much a 2010s city that's presented. I mean, they all have, like, cell phones and stuff like that. And, 50 years is going to look like, how we look films of the 60s,
Yes. Oh my gosh, a cell phone. I haven't seen one of those in 40 years. We don't have eyelid phones.
No.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, and I also don't think it's a leftist film. I really don't. It didn't. It's not a reaction against Donald Trump, and it doesn't feature critical theory. And I don't think you could read into it, but I don't think that was the authorial intent. I think it's quite bipartisan. It's a film for everybody. I mean, I see why people on the left, like liberals and leftists, are like attracted to it and like it. But I think it's a bipartisan film for everyone.
I agree. I don't think it has a. What I was so impressed with was watching it is it deals with a political issue, but it does not have a political message. It has a human message, which I think that's something that I think we crave so desperately today. I think in the creative arts is we need that response to issues that become politicized, that are ultimately human issues. I mean, realistically, as much as I hate to say it, racism is not a political issue. It's a person-to-person issue.
That's true. I think it's actually the leftists who take it not as a facet of human nature, but a facet of systems, that if you get rid of a certain human institution, you can get rid of essentially sin, where there's sort of like humanity is a blank state, whereas really that's really a long debunked concept. I mean,
there are institutions that need reform, but ultimately, as long as people exist, there will always be the exclusion of the other. I think that's something that we've seen throughout history. The destruction, the rise and fall of empires, the rise and fall of civilizations has not changed that. The rise and fall of civilizations will not change it. So ultimately, yes, it is ultimately a personal issue, and it responds in a human manner to a systematic crisis. Or something that's or something that's going to be a manufactured systematic crisis, at least in the film.
Jump ahead of myself, like this was kind of a thing done by individuals, and at the same time, I feel like they might have contradicted themselves at a certain point, but I won't get into that. But what you're saying is correct.
I think that it, I'd say, you know, purely from a creative standpoint, I'm glad it's not linked to a specific person. And I think that its message is truly, being that makes the story timeless, which is, you know, and that would have been, you know, the easy way out, is to take a controversial figure and create an analog for them in the world.
Watching it for the first time, I thought the Lion Mayor candidate was going to be Donald Trump, but that's what happened.
No, he was.
Spoil it. By the way, this is for anyone listening. This is going to be entirely spoiled.
No, he was just kind of
there. Well,
he's an interesting character, actually.
Mayor Lionheart, I believe.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. Like, I get the feeling that they had bigger ideas for him in earlier drafts, but that may just be my creative wheels spinning.
I mean, because it obviously turned into a twist.
It did.
Like Final Fantasy is like the twist villain is somewhere else that he hasn't had yet.
It had 2 twists, actually.
Yeah, it really did.
Which was unusual for a what was supposed to be a family movie.
Again, this is we all agree this is way better than most people.
Oh yeah, no, it had 3 distinct plot twists in it, and it was like.
Actually, no. I thought Nick Wilde was actually the villain the entire time. Really, I did.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Sometimes my brain just goes places when I'm watching films. I'll be watching like a Amazing World Gumball episode or X-Files, and I know something has happened. I just try to completely switch off that part of my brain.
That would have been a heck of a plot twist. That was the end twist.
I just thought Nick Wilde was just like more than a small time. Is all I remember thinking.
He's actually some sort of crime boss.
He actually, in earlier drafts, he wanted to create a club for predators where they could just go wild and stuff. So
that's a dangerous concept to put into a family movie.
Yeah, well, wow. If you read the proto scripts of Zootopia, it's pretty interesting.
I would like to, actually.
Oh my gosh, you should get I should lend you the Blu-ray before I go away to college. It's just genius, really is. It was directed by 3 people, by the way. At least the voice acting or whatever.
That usually doesn't work, but that's
cool.
I
know, right? Only at Disney.
Alright guys, here's the plan. We're going to do an animated movie about racism with 3 directors and animals. What could go wrong? Nothing, apparently. Yeah, no. Yeah.
What were we even talking about?
I don't remember what we were talking about. Racism, not linking it, timeless.
Oh, I actually remember what a point I was going to go on. Yes. In that case, in a very superficial way, but in a good way, I think your book and this film are connected. And I'm not saying you consciously did this, but sort of the inherent violence and problems that come out of building the civilization. The prologue was great. It was talking about once they were predator and prey, but then we learned to live together and create a civilization. But then you get through the film and you find out there's this inherent violence. I mean, it was kind of artificial violence if you watch the whole film. But then, you know what I'm saying here?
Yeah. No, I heard you say.
Your booking and this film share that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. That is something, because it was very realistic about it. At least about that.
Yeah.
The city itself, you know what? Good grief, what do you imagine their income tax is? Sorry, that
Well, the good question is for like the birds, if they have like some kind of floating city where they had to pay property taxes is the real question.
Do birds have to pay? Okay, good question. Okay, do birds have to pay property taxes? It's on the questions list.
Oh my god, can you imagine being a lawyer in Zootopia?
My gosh. Just imagine that, just like...
That would be a whole like slew of episodes if they did a TV show. Okay, we're writing this TV show for Disney. They should hire us.
They should.
Platform. Oh my gosh.
Guys, we have a plan. Lawyers. Oh my word. See, you'd think of all the time. First of all, you'd have to have... Oh my word. Would you have it divided down into like district court, like by like area districts? I don't know.
It's all about externalities. So if a bird flaps its wings in the avian sector, does it affect the crocodile sector? Is the real question.
Crocodiles up in arms. Property prices go down by 35%. Extreme windiness. See, this is how our brains think, people.
Yeah.
But no, imagine, like, I know this is crazy, but think of the taxes they'd have to pay to live in that, like, to live in a city that's that clean, that well upkept, that big, with that much amount of public transport.
Yeah, I know.
There's not a lot of personal transportation in the movie.
No, there's not. I did notice that. Even though a huge subplot is with Judy getting parking tickets at the beginning, if you remember.
Right. So that's just there's an aggressive meter maid service. So Zootopia is not friendly to personal transport.
Oh. So it's like New Manhattan, basically. Which
Yeah.
Off of, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Manhattan. Oh, what if the bubonic plague breaks out?
Oh, all these episode arcs. And it mutates to only certain species, and it creates like this thing is like, oh, this, and it continue the racism aspect. You know, like we have to like quarantine this species and not this one, and
oh, this is getting darker than we expected.
Oh my gosh, you should write a fanfic or something just for the heck of it.
I like it.
Note to self.
Note to self. Go on Wattpad.
Or Ink Bunny or whatever it is.
It's a. Wattpad?
Does Ink Bunny do stories?
I don't know. I've never used Ink Bunny. I know about Wattpad. I know about fanfiction.net.
Yeah. The part of the show where Matt and Drew talk about furry sites in public.
Wattpad. It's bad. I think I went on there once and I noped out.
I think I went on there once and like was kind of underwhelmed, so just like I'm not getting the app.
Yeah, no, I noped out. I went on one time with Gabrielle. We were looking for stuff for a Crypt Bunny thing. We didn't find anything. And we noped out. Yeah, no, hopefully, we're actually going to start streaming next week, I think, again.
Oh, okay, good. Because there's a hiatus, right? Or...
Yeah, we took a hiatus. We said we were going to fill the gap with stuff, but we didn't really.
That's fine.
We needed a break. So yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, no, seriously, ZPD, we're writing a show for Disney, and they should be paying us.
Hey, they're gonna have like that Disney streaming service with the Mandalorian show, and they cost like how much? And like, they did Clone Wars without Disney, so how much harder is it gonna do to do Zootopia?
Yes.
You can have like, you can even have like celebrity camos. They have like Mulder and Scully. That would be cool. Have like the FBI, the X-Files Zootopia. Oh
my gosh.
Spin-off.
Just have all these episodes. Oh my goodness. Think of all the shows you could do. Or you could just turn it into a parody series where every episode is a parody of another show.
Oh gosh. You could have like little advertisements for parody shows, I don't know. And maybe it could turn into something, who knows.
That'd be oh my goodness.
The
Ducks of Hazzard.
Going back to this recording and be like, yes.
The Ducks of Hazard.
Uh,
I'm on to something with that one. All right, so
at least you don't have to pay property taxes.
Oh my word! This episode's wandering a bit.
Yes, it is.
All right, so what else are you thinking of?
Well, back to notes. So big themes of racism and racialism in this film. So, but to spoil the film even more, there's the predator serum subplot. Some critics have pointed out that it kind of distracts / makes inconsistent such themes. I think it kind of implies almost that there is a large problem of tribalism because of the serum, and that they really wouldn't be without it. It's like, you know what I'm kind of saying? Like, I know it's orchestrated, but I don't know.
Part of me says that that's maybe getting bogged down in the details a little bit.
Yeah. You think it would have been better if it just was like wholesale, just like for no reason, or you think kids wouldn't understand that?
No, because we know for a fact it exists before the serum.
That's true, with the scene with the elephant and Nick.
Yep, and even
Jordan DiMaggio played that guy. Jordan DiMaggio was everywhere in this film. You'd be surprised.
Yep. Nope.
John DiMaggio. Not Joe DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio was everywhere in this film. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Zootopia.
Multi-species sports. That's another whole thing. If you had like an elephant on like a football team, it'd be unbeatable. Wow.
Elephant on a football team. Like, could you have a non-cheetah running team? Ooh! There's an angle. Yeah. I like it.
Again, expand on the species this thing.
Could you ever have like a... Oh, yeah, no... You'd really be reduced to animals that are roughly human-sized.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Unless you...
There are no primates in this, though. They've confirmed that.
Okay. Okay. So, unless they divide stuff up by weight classes.
Yeah, like boxing.
Like boxing, like you'd have in the under 45 pounds baseball World Series, the over 45 pound, the heavyweight baseball World Series.
That should be your fanfic, because it's the two things that you love, and it.
Boom. But
anyway, we're talking about dumbing down for kids with the predator serum. You said it did not dumb it down.
I think because we know that the tribalism existed beforehand for a fact. The fact that it's an aggravating incident, a manufactured aggravating incident, and I think that has a specific meaning to it. The fact that it is manufactured makes it through no fault of the people blamed. So I mean,
Bellweather knew it was exploitable to begin with, so that means that it existed before she brought it up.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty solid case.
It existed to kind of use a in the human quote unquote heart before. Yeah, it wasn't an invention of anyone.
I agree. It was a constructed idea to make use of people's presupposed biases,
which is why it was so effective.
Yep, it played into fears and stereotypes that people already have.
Very post 9/11 of them.
Yeah, it does. Very much so.
But not postmodern, which is interesting.
Not postmodern at all. It's a very not postmodern movie, actually.
No.
It's definitely a.
I mean, like they say, like basically prejudice is in your head, but it's not like it doesn't, exist. Like the differences are real. That we didn't imagine them.
That's true. It does confirm that. Yeah. No. Oh, that's an interesting angle. I'd have to think about that further, actually.
I mean, like, I kind of wrote down in my notes, kind of skipping ahead, but I feel like Judy Hopps, like, I know her big character arc was, like, getting her in the place of being more than just be thought as, a dumb bunny and could only do the meter maid thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think she had limitations to her biology, and as much as that goes against the point, I think that it's kind of like she had maybe like the film kind of overrated her. Like, I don't know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Explain.
Like, she still couldn't do certain things because of her size and relative biology, but she was like, smart, and she could go catch Duke Weaselton. You know what I'm saying here?
Did the best of
like
her
maybe
ability.
it ignored her differences too much to focus on her similarities. I feel. I don't know. I'm asking you. It's more of a question.
I'm not sure. So you're saying that it makes obvious that people have individual limitations.
No, I think it ignores limitations more than and it focuses maybe too much on similarities. Like,
I don't know, because I think it shows that somebody can overcome their size.
Yeah.
I think in this case size, because I know people say it's a very feminist movie, but I don't think it's ever about the fact that Judy is a girl. I don't think it's ever about that. At least it never goes to that.
It's definitely not postmodern feminism. I mean, she goes into the system. She's not deconstructing the system.
And she succeeds because she succeeds with her mind, which is laudable.
Yeah, exactly.
Through her mind and hard work, which is laudable. She's able to overcome the size difference between, because she is shown to be the smallest person in the room.
Yeah.
Consistently. So
the fist bump scene is like kind of summed it all up.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it because I think it works for showing who she is. Because
it doesn't show. I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't show her as a Mary Sue too much, but I don't think it. The more I think about it, I don't think it does.
It does not show her as Mary Sue because she very obviously needs help too.
Yeah.
Because
But Nick is also her same size, and he's not much better than her, which is also interesting.
You know, he's clumsier than she is, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. They have a very good character dynamic, the two of them.
Yeah.
It's a very solid character dynamic.
It was a bunny cop film.
Bunny cop film?
Yes.
Brunch.
I think really what the film is ultimately saying is that biology is neither an excuse to do bad things nor to judge others on the basis of. Judge fully, not judge partially. I think it's okay to judge, just not judge hypocritically or judge fully on one trait, which is what I think it's saying, because I think it implies that it was sort of like an anti-fatalist film. It's also a film about, for lack of a better word, suppressing animal nature to see something more human, for lack of better words.
I definitely agree with your initial base judgment of saying it's not using, so it's saying biology is not an excuse to do bad things or an excuse to judge other people. That I certainly agree with. I think that's the deepest part of the movie, is saying ultimately it is you are judging somebody by what they do. By what they do.
I think it's you should judge them what they do, not what they are, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, judge somebody by, the content of their character, to quote a great man. Yeah, I think that is the that's the ultimate message of the movie. And that's a good thing to keep in mind. Anything else?
I was also thinking on the flip side, there's sort of a gentle diversity spin. Like, that's kind of the point of Zootopia, the city proper. And I actually have a little bit of a convoluted fan theory.
Okay, convoluted fan theory coming online in 3, 2, 1.
I kind of have the feeling that Bellweather, the person who put the predator serum up, was a prey supremacist, not just because she wanted to help fellow prey, but she wanted to maybe one day convert predators into herbivores, or just people who couldn't be predators anymore, basically make them all for the same class or type, to achieve sort of this peace between all of them, create this sort of sameness. Does that make sense to you?
So what you're saying is Bellweather is a vegan socialist?
Yes. But
I
maybe
love
a little
it.
bit in a fascistic way that she wants to make everyone the same, but in the pursuit of peace. If that makes any sense.
Oh, that'd be deep. I'm not sure if the character does that.
I don't know if she intended that, but it's like, is it just to like get into power to replace the Lion? Because she wants to get predators in trouble and make predator-ism look bad.
Yes.
Because it's confirmed that predators eat fish in the film, so they are meat eaters.
Yes.
She wants to eliminate the predator-prey distinction by getting them in trouble. She wants to deconstruct the ways of nature for her type of species.
Oh, that's interesting. It's the we want to make there. See there it is. It's collectivism versus forced sameness. Is that the conflict? Is that the actual social conflict here? Collectivism versus sameness, or sorry, collectivism versus socialism.
Like a balance of individual and collectivism, because you have individuals living together in a collective. But what she wants to do is make tribalism. She wants kind of sameness. Yes, yeah, I would say that's what it is.
Ooh.
So yes, she is a vegan socialist.
Okay, yeah, no, that's terrifying. Though, see, the one problem with that theory, this is the one problem that's been bothering me. But if you take it too far, you end up with the Jim Crow thing, though, equal but separate, which will never be equal. But ooh, that got dark. I don't like that. Oh, that'd be if you took it the opposite way too far. Because that is not the situation at the beginning of the movie.
No, it's not.
And I don't think that's what the creators were trying to make.
Story arc and Bellweather's
right.
intentions.
So Bellweather's intentions would be we're going to make
peace,
we're going. Here's the thing. Instead of bringing up prey to the level of a predator, they're bringing the predator down to the level of the prey.
So it is fascistic, but it's also at the same time it's for the name of equality and helping. The prey have been the oppressed through history. They've literally been the ones who've been eaten.
Yes, and then it's there. There's what it is. It's instead of bringing people up, it's bringing people down.
They're making them equally weak, essentially.
They're not,
and they're getting rid of diversity in the same way. But it's in her mind, it's worth.
It's getting rid of diversity so we can have diversity. You know what I mean, though? The difference in tone, diversity to diversity.
Yeah, it's never said in the film, but I just feel like if she was never caught, that's what have maybe happened. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch the film, but I feel like that's what should have been. Maybe, I don't know, in a sequel. Maybe we're writing the sequel for them too.
We're writing the sequel for them. We're giving them deep plot lines here, people.
That would be a whole thing, like the prey liberation /
prey liberation
supremacist. Prey liberation supremacist movement.
Prey liberation army versus predator supremacist movement.
Yes. So it'd be like the Red Army versus the White Bolshevik, the Red Tsarist army.
Guys, we've given you a World War I plot line. Disney, take us up on the. Oh my word. Yeah.
I literally thought that up entirely myself. I did not go on Reddit and look for fan theories.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So things we decided. Bellweather is not just a racist. She's evil. Well, racism is evil.
She's double evil.
She's actually one of the most loathable villains I think Disney has ever made, because she's not cartoonish.
No, and she doesn't die either. She doesn't fall off a cliff, and she's just not wow.
Yeah,
and you almost part of her. To me, the mark of the villain is their ideology makes sense on the surface. Like with writing Ron Schneid, that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she is a chilling villain, because you know what she does? She's not gonna change you into. Well, she actually will change you into something you're not.
I mean, she was playing around with serums. Like, who says that she wasn't gonna invent a
bioweapon?
Oh, well, bioweapon that turned all predators into like prey
Yeah.
against their will, essentially.
She developed a bioweapon.
Yes,
So,
she did.
so let's talk about this lady. She overthrew the rightful government, intentionally suppressed a people group, tested biological agents on her own citizens, and attempted to start a race war in her own country.
Dang.
Good grief, Bellweather is Hitler! Bellweather is Hitler.
Also, she's like a lamb, which is kind of like the most stereotypically indefensible animal that you can pretty much think of.
I know. A white lamb, even.
Yeah.
Oh. I know this may be a little bit weird, but I would like to think it was a little bit longer.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I would, but like I think this has to do with kids' attention span. Like, really, I think that's the only reason it was like that.
Yeah, a little longer, slow the pace down a little bit. Might I think benefit the movie.
Yeah.
Slow the pace down a little bit. I'd like an earlier establishment of Judy's character. I'd like to spend a little more time with just her. Or maybe a little bit more time with just Nick. Actually, that's an idea. You could stretch out the movie a little bit by introducing them separately and have their stories almost meet at a couple points, and then finally collide where they do. Because how they meet is perfect.
I agree. I actually wrote concerning Nick Wilde. I thought, like, was I the only person who thought he wasn't very likable? Because I feel like he didn't have as good character development as Judy. Maybe it's just the runtime problem. But I read he was originally going to be the main character. But apparently test audience like found him like not likable and hard to connect with emotionally. Also felt as be bullied as a kid wasn't enough of a justification for him wanting to turn to a life of crime. But at the same time, the film never went out of its way to show if he's wrong or right, just that he did things in reaction to things.
That's a fair point. I think as much you're right. Nick
and just found his entire character arc a bit lame, is what I'm saying.
I think in the movie he's likable, but he is the secondary character.
Yeah,
he's the sidekick.
It's true. It's kind of one of those like old debates in writing. Is like, can you have a true secondary protagonist? And I think you almost can't.
That's a sign that I'm facing that the more I look back at Blood Covenant trying to have three main characters, I'm ultimately realizing that trying to balance that much quote-unquote screen time, it doesn't work that well. There's a reason people don't do that. Because either way, your mind is always putting one person's story first.
Unless you have something very unique like Cloud Atlas, but you can argue that's the same two characters in the different timeline.
Yeah. Because two protagonists...
And Cloud Atlas, and let it be Cloud Atlas all at once.
Two protagonists can work. I think. I think you could make it work. Even
to the best of your ability, go knock yourself out.
Yeah, no, I feel like I would hope... Yeah, no, you're right. I think Nick... He becomes likable, but I think he's not the deepest character in the world. Like, it does seem like you're right. His character arc doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense.
Yeah,
but it does make you feel for him, or at least it made me feel for him. I don't know.
I don't know. Like I did like his biting sarcasm. He always felt like he was. I think that's why they get shipped so much. Not just because they're in the same screen time, but which is a lot of lame ships start.
Yeah.
But just like how he teased her, I think, throughout the film, and that he seemed to stick around with her longer than you'd think for just someone who doesn't seem to care about her.
Yeah, no, they have a good energy, and I for me that is one that I am not opposed to being a thing, because like I usually hate the idea of ships, like most of them I hate, but that's one that I actually think makes realistic sense. Like one that I really hate is when people like I know you mentioned them earlier, but Mulder and Scully. That relationship doesn't make sense. It doesn't work.
No.
Like to me, they're kind of like two kind of obvious ships that I think I could get behind in a series. There's only ever 2. Yeah.
It's also not one of those ones where it kind of set up obviously. Like someone pointed, if you ever watched the Teen Titans with Robin and Starfire, because it was kind of like, well, you can either pick Raven or Starfire, and it's not going to be either one of those, you know. And there's Terra, but you know, it wasn't too obvious to me. It's like, it's only one movie. What can you do? It's not like it's implied over a course of like 2 seasons or something.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
I have a question I think you really like.
Is this part of question and answer, or this?
No, it's not. It's still part of the improvement section.
All right, go for it.
Do you think not making it a family film could have made it overall a better piece of fiction?
Ooh. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Because I think ultimately, I'm going to have to assume, as writers writing it, they wanted to make it darker than it is.
Yeah, I felt that too. They said they based it off of Chinatown, which it kind of is in the superficial way it is. I've watched Chinatown.
I think they'd want to make. I think they would want to make it darker than it is, which I think is justifiable. Definitely justifiable. Though I think the making it a family issue forced them to make it both timeless and deal creatively, and deal with things in simple enough terms for people to deal with. Because I feel like if they had tried to make that more harder, it would have been immediately niche versus being an actual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like the films of Ralph Bakshi. One with it, I don't feel like I should say online, but it like kind of dealt with racial themes with cartoon animals. It was a 70s film. Like I would think it'd be something like that. It'd be like, I mean, obviously more of a thing with adult animation now, but still, yeah, it would have been.
It would have been a 2-edged sword.
Okay.
2-edged sword by my book.
Yeah. Do you think that the film could have significantly benefited from showing the tribalism, extremism that the echo chamber of the internet causes? And by the way, what I mean that is, I do know that at the end, kind of like where Judy is at the conference, and there's like all this stuff blowing up on the internet for against predators. Not just that, but also like kind of the isolation that just being on the internet causes, and just being on an echo chamber where you can go to like a forum or something where everyone shares like
the same opinion
as you.
Yes, I think it could have benefited from showing that as part of the extended runtime. I think it shows a bit of that with cable news interludes.
Yeah.
But I think it could benefit from showing more of it. Yes.
Okay. I mean, we could go to the Wives and Wherefores because it kind of covers it.
Yeah.
My last thought was just if the film isn't as deep as it could be, like it's no 2001: Space Odyssey, and I just said what things in Jericho make it deep, but I think we kind of hit with that with Bellweather.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think we hit with it. I think this might be one of the deepest movies Disney has made.
Oh yeah,
and it also deals.
It feels like deeper than Incredibles, and Brad Bird fancies himself pretty deep. Both of it.
It also hits well outside their comfort zone.
And yet it became the 4th film to make $1 billion.
I know.
And they say art films don't make money. No.
It resonated with people.
I think it is an art film, too, in the broadest sense.
It is. Because it was definitely a labor of love. It was not just a labor of merchandise.
But now that it's like, the merchandise is even cooler, it just adds to it.
Yeah, no, it's one of it's one of those things to say, yeah, you don't just have to like some obscure hipster thing. It can happen, kids.
I also think because of certain factors that furry animals have become more popular,
more mainstream. It's
American imagination.
American imagination. It's nice to see people getting on board with what is a very, very, very classical Western idea that fell out of vogue for quite some time.
Alice in Wonderland, Wind in the Willows, C.S. Lewis.
Oh, Wind in the Willows is a really good book. We should talk about that sometime.
Oh, that's a weird novel.
Have you read it?
I've read it like when I was like 14 or something. I want to read it again.
It's actually part of a. It's part of a
series. I know that.
There's 4 books written by 2 or 3 different guys. I don't remember. It gets weird at the end. Like we get into like. I'm telling you, nature, spirits, and labor relations at the end. It's good though. It's really good.
I heard Monty Python did a weird adaptation for them too in the 90s.
Yeah, it's wild. I like it, but it's wild. Especially the first one. The first one's very good. The first one's, and they're all incredibly British.
They are really. Yeah. 1890s too. I think they're like late 19th century.
I want to say 1920s because there's a motor car.
Oh yeah, Mr. Toad motor car. I take it you read all of them?
I did read all of them at some point.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah. All right. So now as we're on the.
We're ready for Q&A now.
Yeah, I'm ready for Q&A. All right. So I know we touched on this a couple times, but very briefly, just sort of in a paragraph, what would you want from a sequel?
I don't know how you feel about the Judy and ex-Nick thing.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm going to coin a term, I think it would be a bit of a Mulder and Scully, meaning that it's not something that's necessary nor planned by the people, but I feel like just for fan appreciation, they're going to have it happen. So develop that, but maybe, since I feel it's going to be a trilogy, just like develop it a lot, because I think that romances in action stories don't do very well unless they have a lot of time to work with, like a trilogy. So I'd say hint at that. Maybe talk about the stuff that we were talking about throughout the film, like all these problems you can play with exclusively with animals, like because Cars, for example, went outside the realm of racing in the second film, and everybody really didn't like it critically. So as much as they could make money, no matter what virtually whatever they produce, Disney should focus on the police procedural drama and stuff like that. And I want to see Bellweather return too. I don't know about you. I just don't know how they could have her be a thing again, other than like some lame pulpy jailbreak thing. People
who like favor Bellweather. What if Bellweather writes a manifesto while in jail?
Like Antonio Gramsci. It's very smart.
I was thinking Hitler, but I'm sorry. I'm still on the Bellweather Hitler thing.
I think she's equally fascist as she's leftist. I think, which is kind of interesting how you can kind of see that both in her. But
it's creepy. It's wild. Hey, well, that's what they say. That's what I say. Political spectrum's like a ball. You start on one side, and by that you start working one way towards communism, one way towards fascism.
It kind of looks like the same both ways.
Yeah, they just meet on the other side, where it's like, ha, this stinks.
For some reason, communism lasts longer, but it seems like fascism kills people faster. But they run out of people to kill faster too.
Interesting.
Okay, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
All right, you have a question for me, sir.
Yeah. Do you think you can write a good screenplay? Just write one.
Ooh, I've written plays. I've written short plays before.
That counts.
I've written short plays before. So, do I think I would?
Length, like I don't know, a 60-minute one or so.
Never one that long. The longest I think is probably about somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. I think.
I meant like in the future.
Oh, I would certainly try. I definitely need help with the blocking aspect. It helps that I have done stage acting.
Well, Gabe is helping me with the script, so she'll probably know how to edit a script on it.
Yeah, so I'd be open to it. It's not my chosen medium because I like adjectives, but I'd give it a shot.
Oh, good. Maybe we could challenge each other, like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. Like Tolkien did a. I think C.S. Lewis did the sci-fi, and I forget what Tolkien had to write. I think he had to write about time travel or something weird.
Ooh. And then looking at and describes every detail on the seat of the time machine for a page and a half. And there's one stitch that my great aunt Marianne sat down upon, and okay, so here's my second one is what lore questions do you still have? Like, what lore questions do you think either need to be answered or that you personally very much want to be answered?
More history questions are like, well, I don't know how that would not descend into trivia, honestly, but like, I guess they might, like, with different technological situations, there might be more interesting ways to explore in the Zootopia universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would a 19th century Zootopia look like? Was it even a thing? How would that look like? You know,
Ooh.
especially with different, not only just like different needs for different species, but like just like what kind of conflicts would there have with expensive healthcare where you can only do a certain amount of things? I don't know.
Victorian Zootopia,
Yes,
1950s Zootopia,
Cold War
80
Zootopia.
Cold War Zootopia. Ooh, I like it.
Future Zootopia, of course, is a thing in itself, depending on what direction you go.
Very nice. It's very interesting, actually. That's a very good question.
So history, I would sum it up in history.
Because we would be led to assume that they have old tech, because we see old tech. We can see old tech. So unless there's some aspect of we're going to wire it, we're going to make redundant lower tech systems.
Yeah. Unless it's cheaper, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It just hints at a history.
Yeah. Unless they're intense on just in case. And your last question for me, sir.
What is the best meta-modernist piece of fiction you've ever experienced?
Ooh, good question. It's hard to say best. Really hard to say best. I think the concept. I think the movie that the.
How many you like the most? Is that good?
Okay, yeah, that's a little bit better. The work that I think struggles with it the most, I think, might be No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy.
It's kind of funny because I've been reading about the Conans a while, and maybe the movie's significantly different, but like I've always gone the fact that they kind of were attracted to because how postmodern is, but I really don't know much about it. And basically every Coen Brothers movie is extremely postmodernist, not in a political way like Wachowski's, but just generally postmodern.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it struggles with the idea of meaning. At least in that movie. I'd also.
It was a book about evil, right?
Yeah, it actually does deal with is there good and evil. I also throw out there. I know this is a very old story, but I think it catches the metamodernist aesthetic very well. Would be Flannery O'Connor's The White Geranium. I think that's another one that actually also deals with racism. But that's an interesting one that I think captures metamodernist aesthetic fairly well. And I have to say, I throw out Zootopia is also then struggles with truth, untruth, and well, there has to be something. And even there, it's not so much as the modernist idea of reaching an end, or even the romantic or classical idea of reaching ends. It's simply saying, well, it can't be meaningless. So
it goes on from there.
Yeah, and it goes on from there. So yeah, that's my response. Alright, so I think that's going to bring us to ending. I'm going to try and cut us out before the hour mark hits, so thank you guys and have a great night. Bye now.